So today's meeting is going to be kind of brief. So we'll see that in our week 6 channel, right under Friday work, the only thing that we have to do is page 2 of week 6 problems, questions 19 through 23. 19 through 23. So if we take a look at those problems, right, page 6 problems, and then we want to look at 19 through 23. So on page 2, right, 19 through 23. So you see how 1 through 9 said factor each difference of squares, and then 10 through 18 said factor each perfect square trinomial. So for 19 through 23, right, each of these will either be a difference of squares or a perfect square trinomial. And there is a chance that you might have to first take out a common factor, right? So remember that the first step before you start using the forms is you want to think about, like, is there a number that goes into 9 and 16? No, right? Because the only numbers that go into 9 are 1 and 3 and 9, and none of those go into 16. Like for this one, we want to ask ourselves, is there a number that goes into 9, 24, and 16, right? 3 goes into 9 and 24, doesn't go into 16, right? And like 4 goes into 16 and 24, but doesn't go into 9. So there's no common factor here. But here, right, 9x squared minus 36, 9 goes into 9, and 9 goes into 36. So you could pull out that 9, right? And you'll see that's reflected in your answer down here. You see how there's that 9 on the outside of the parentheses? Just like for 22, right, they're all even numbers, 2, 8, 8. So we could take out a 2, right? That's why we see a 2 on the outside of the parentheses for our answer here. So to move on to the actual problems. All right, I'm going to do 19, 20, and 23. All right, so here's 19. We already said that there's no common factor. So now we got to think about, like, is this a difference of squares or a perfect square trinomial? Right, well, it's not a perfect square trinomial because perfect square trinomials have 3 terms, right? And this one only has 1 and 2. So it's a difference of squares because 9x squared is this perfect square, so is 16. Right, it looks like this, a squared minus b squared. So it's a difference of squares. So now we gotta figure out what is our a squared and b squared, right? A squared is 9x squared, b squared is 16. So, right, to get rid of the exponent of 2, we got to take the square root of both sides. Square root of 9x squared is, right, square root of 9 is 3, square root of x squared is x, square root of 16 is 4. So, right, 3x, and here we just have 4, right? So our answer is going to be 3x plus 4, 3x minus 4. Just like what we have here, right? A plus b, a minus b. Our a is 3x, our b is 4. So moving on to the next problem. Oops. Moving on to the next problem, we have 9x squared plus 24x plus 16, right? We already said that there's no common factor, right? No number that goes into all these. And we got to check to see if it's a perfect square trinomial, right? It looks like it because this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So then we just got to check this middle term. So, right, our a squared and our b squared are the same exact as before, right? 9x squared and 16. Or when we take the square root, we get 3x and 4, right? Just like, right? Oops. It's just the same as this problem, right? 9x squared and 16. So now it's the same thing, right? 9x squared, 16, just with this 24x in the middle. But we'll see here, right, when we take the square root, we get the same thing, 3x and 4. So now we just got to check. When we multiply 3x and 4 together and double it, we should get 24x. And indeed, right, 3x times 4 is 12x, and double 12x, you get 24x. So we're good. This is a perfect square trinomial, which means our answer is going to look like, right, is this a plus or a minus? It's a plus. So it'll be 3x plus 4 squared. All right, we just got one more for you. All right, so we have x squared times y plus 10x times y plus 25 times y. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to, they each have a y. So I'm going to take that y out, right? So now it'll look a little bit easier, right? So now our a squared is going to be x squared, our b squared is just going to be 25, right? Before they were not perfect squares, right? Because there's no like number that you could multiply by itself to get y, right? But now, right, there's a number that you can multiply by itself to get x squared, which is just x. So now our a squared is going to be x squared, our b squared is going to be 25. We take the square root of both sides. Square root of x squared is just x. Square root of 25 is 5. Right, so our final answer, right, remember that you take the y is going to be outside. So the y is the first part of our answer. Oops. Now sorry, I forgot to double check this. So, right, we multiply a and b together and double it. X times 5 is 5x. Double 5x to get 10x. Right, that's what we have here. So we're good. So our answer is just going to be, right, the y is going to be on the outside. And it'll be a plus b squared, right? X plus 5 squared. So remember, this was 23. You should have left some space to do 21 and 22. And remember, you want to think about, right, what numbers can you pull out, right? What goes into 9x squared and 36? What goes into 2x squared, 8xy, and 8y squared? And then other than that, you guys are done.